Most agency owners will tell me that their biggest problem is a dry pipeline. I've heard it from nearly every single one of the 40 agency owners I've worked with, one-to-one. But my take on this is that the dry pipeline is a consequence of the things that they're either not doing or aren't thinking about. And there's really usually three key things that come up on this front. So in this video, I'm going to dig into those three things and see how they can be used to help you grow your agency and overcome this challenge of a dry pipeline. Now, to start with, it's helpful to understand how agency owners find themselves stuck on this front to begin with. So dry pipeline, they're worried about the future of the business because they can't find leads. So a typical situation, and it came up again last week, an agency owner spoke to me about this same problem. And it wasn't the case that they're doing nothing. And in fact, it rarely is. More often than not, it'll be that the agency owner is currently putting time into things. It could be LinkedIn, it could be going to events, it could be running paid media, it could be doing anything that relates to many of the marketing and sales channels you can use. The thing is, if you're spending 20, 30 hours a week on business development and you aren't getting leads from it, something has to be off, right? And that was pretty much the case. And this is quite a common thing I'll come across when I ask the agency owner, well, who are you actually trying to target? There's usually silence or a bit of a ramble about a certain type of person at a certain type of business. Honestly, the real problem here is very rarely the fact that it's the dry pipeline. That's a consequence. It's a symptom. It's not the actual challenge or the problem that the agency owner faces. What they face is uncertainty around who they should really be targeting with their sales and marketing activity, and a challenge around what they're known for, how they position themselves, how people perceive them in the wider world. For me personally, this has transformed how I actually look at a lot of agencies and how I help a lot of owners, because more often than not, if not in every occasion, it's not about the pipeline. It's about what's happening before that. It's what about isn't in place, or if it is in place, it's not done the right way. So we're going to dig into this in more detail now, and I alluded to it before, but there are usually three things that I think are really important that are missed out on that can get agency owners on the right track on this front. So let's start with positioning. This in its own right is a word that for a lot of people can be quite confusing. There's uncertainty around what positioning even means for an agency. In my mind, I think it helps to consider 3 points on this. So first of all, who are you trying to help, or who do you serve? Secondly, it's what you do for those people to help them overcome their pain points. And thirdly, it's why your agency can uniquely help these people. So for example, a lot of agencies will say they're a digital marketing agency and they help businesses grow. I'm not saying that you are not genuinely good at that. You could be really brilliant at it, but that is very vague. Think about it from that business's perspective. If they're looking for an agency to help them with something, A, they probably don't even know what they need help with or what they should be doing. And B, if they do have an idea of what that is, why would they pick your agency whenever you don't clearly state who you're for, what you do, or what makes you special? So for example, let's go from digital marketing agency that helps brands grow to an email marketing agency that helps professional services firms retain their clients. Okay, is it perfect? Probably not. Is it better? Definitely. It's clear who you're for, what you do, and it even gives the person a bit of an idea about specifically the tools or approach or strategy you might employ. Positioning in its own right is a really important and substantial topic. There are people out there that advise or guide even just on positioning for agencies. As such, I try to simplify it down for small agency owners who've never done it before. At least give them a starting point, because without this, it makes it very difficult from a sales perspective to be efficient and clear in terms of who you're trying to target, and from a marketing perspective, who you're even writing content for or who you're creating content for. The second component is a long-term growth strategy. So the most common phrase I'll hear on this front is, oh, we've done that thing and it didn't work. 2 points to this. The thing that the owner did probably shouldn't even have been tested or tried in the first place. And 2, how long they did it for generally could be less than a couple of months, even a matter of weeks. So there's a tendency for owners to desperately want leads into their pipeline, so they'll try anything and everything without really thinking, is this something I can do sustainably, consistently well for 12, 24, 36 months? I'm not saying that it's going to play out perfectly like that. You'll have to try things out, of course, but just moving on to the next thing before you've given a channel and even an opportunity to show you wherever it could be valuable and worth investing in long term is kind of the issue here. It really comes down to the difference between doing more random things in the hope that something sticks versus prioritizing one or two of the right things based on what you know about your business, yourself, and your target audience. So really, we want to focus on one, maybe two key drivers of growth. And again, to reiterate, this is as much about the owner and their strengths as it is the audience and where they're hanging out, so to speak, or where the audience and the targets at those companies are spending their time and making buying decisions. It's something that the owner is going to be consistent with. We don't want a sporadic approach here. It's not what we're going for with a long-term strategy. So the question is, what is something that you can do as an owner, given the time that's available to you over the next 12 months, day in, day out? Practical example of this, I had a client that was using email marketing, SEO, paid ads, organic on LinkedIn, going to events, and both speaking and attending those events. And the point there is, it's not that each of those channels in their own right is poor or wrong. They're all feasible. But he was doing each of those at about a 40 to 60% capacity. We stripped everything back. We asked the question, what does he prefer doing? What is he better at? And where do we think the target audience is more likely to be interested in what he has to say? And we narrowed it down to two places. One was LinkedIn Organic, and the second was SEO. Why SEO? Because he runs an SEO agency. It made sense. So the long-term plan is use a strategy that he's very familiar with in terms of the service he provides to attract people to his website. Alongside that, using a platform like LinkedIn to reach target customers in an efficient, effective way. Again, just to reiterate, what is something we can do for months and years, not just weeks? That's the big question. So the third and final component of this comes down to your existing network and your existing connections. People that know of you or have a sense for who you are already, people that might already have an element of trust built up with you. This is something that's so overlooked, and it's always so surprising because fundamentally, these are leads that will be warmer, significantly warmer in some cases. And if I told you you could choose between having a pipeline with 100 cold leads or 15 really warm leads, which one are you going to pick? I think you pick the latter every day, because fundamentally it comes back to our ability to convert these leads. And if there are people who already know who we are, what we can offer, how we can help them, or maybe even have some type of mutual connection, I think they're way more likely to convert, and that's what we want. So the third area to look at are the people that you can tap into who you might have already spoken to before, or who might already have experienced your service, maybe a few years ago or in a different way or through a different business. Even split it into three categories to help. Current and former clients, potential partners, so peers, for example, fellow marketers maybe, and then network connections. So again, people that you've maybe met in a different role or in a different time in your career. People that aren't directly likely to be clients, but there might be some overlap between what you do and they do. This is the fastest path to adding revenue to your pipeline, adding potential clients and leads to that pipeline that are way more likely to convert. So we deliberately target people that we put onto this list. It's not going to be a list of thousands. It's going to be quite a deliberate list of people that you can reach out to quite quickly with confidence that you'll get a response. Like a gold mine for some people, to be honest. And it's something that's relatively untapped. And it's something you do not have to spend a lot of time nurturing or a lot of time investing in it, because truthfully, it's a case of sending a message or sending a quick email or maybe a LinkedIn message. The secret to it, though, is in your ability to tap into this list and consistently chip away at it on a daily basis. So if you can send 1, 2, 3 messages to people on this list on a daily basis, over time, you're going to really start building up those coffees or catch-up calls, and maybe start to formalize a few partnerships, or maybe just remind a few people that you didn't have the chance to work with in the past that now is the right time. Even with former clients that you stopped working with 2 years ago, is it possible to work with them again? Maybe. Maybe current clients actually went to an event where there were a lot of potential clients of yours at it, and they mentioned your name, and now they're putting you in touch with a few people they met there. So just to recap, the whole point of this is to say that your dry pipeline isn't the problem. It's the things that you're not doing before worrying about the pipeline that are the problem. It's not tapping into your existing network. It's not having a long-term growth strategy. And definitely, it's not having clear positioning or defining a niche for yourself in order to make it super clear for both you and your potential clients that you're for them. If you can get these 3 things set up really nicely, it just gives you a much better chance of having consistent leads coming into the pipeline that are A, warmer, and B, more likely to convert because they will be more likely to be the right people. So it's not necessarily a case of doing more things. It's just about prioritizing what's right for you and focusing on the connections and relationships you've already got. And when it comes to the long-term growth strategy, it's about you again. It's what you're good at, what you prefer, alongside finding these places where the target audience that you've chosen is likely to spend time. So if you actually want to fix your pipeline problem, you need to stop treating it like a pipeline problem and approach it like a systems problem. Because each of these things that we talked through today, essentially in their own right, could be a system that you're going to create and build to increase the chances that you put the right people into your pipeline. Of course, none of this will work without daily consistency. And that is going to be at the heart of a lot of the things that will help an agency owner build the agency that they really want. If you're struggling with that, you might find this video helpful. It's where I talk through a system or a series of systems that you can create as an agency owner to help you run the business for you, or at least build a system that means the agency is not reliant on you being involved in everything day to day.